Good morning to you. Now we will continue with the Constitution class. In the last class, I think we have seen collective responsibility, individual responsibility, and ministerial responsibility. So, as we have seen, Council of Ministers is collectively responsible only to Lok Sabha, which implies that it is not responsible to Rajya Sabha. Obviously, because it's only the House of People, Lok Sabha. So, the Council of Ministers is responsible only to Lok Sabha. We have also seen ministerial responsibility. That is, the officers are responsible to minister and minister is accountable to the parliament. That is how the government of India functions. Secondly, there is one more term which is available in UK but not available in India. That is called legal responsibility. What is legal responsibility? You know, in Britain, every order of the king, that is on behalf, like president issuing the order, every order of the king for any public act, that order is countersigned by the minister. If the order is in violation of any law, the minister is liable for such violation in the court of law. That is, the accepted principle, as you know, in UK is king can do no wrong. That is, king is always right because all functions are exercised by some other person. So, king has no role at all. The same is applicable in India also. But in India, the counter signature by minister does not exist. That is, there is no provision of legal responsibility of the minister. So, the orders need not be countersigned by the minister. Instead, as you know, the orders issued on behalf of the President of India are expressed in the name of the President and authenticated by the officers of Government of India. That is the thing which is explained in Article 77. So we have seen up to, we have seen 52, 53, 73, 74, 75. Now we are coming to Article 77. So legal responsibility in UK where the minister is countersigning, whereas in India there is no such provision. That is the point you should remember. Then what do you mean by Article 77? No, under this article, all the executive functions, recall what we said in Article 53? All the executive functions of Government of India shall be expressed to be taken in the name of President. Shall be expressed to be taken in the name of President. The orders made and executed in the name of President shall be authenticated in the manner as specified in the rules made by the President. So, remember, all executive functions are expressed to be taken in the name of President. The orders made and executed in the name of President shall be authenticated in the manner laid down in the rules made by the President. So, accordingly, for smooth conduct of business of Government of India, President of India makes three kinds of rules. I think yesterday I explained to you. Three kinds of rules. One is transaction of business rules. That is, in which cases the file should go to President, in which cases the file should go to the Cabinet, in which cases file should personally go to the what is called Prime Minister, and what are the discretionary powers of the Prime Minister, section 12 of the transaction of business rules. And second is allocation of business rules, that is allocating the subjects in each department and allocating such department to the minister, allocation of business rules. And the third is authentication of orders rules 1958. Under the authentication of orders rules, an officer of the rank of undersecretary and above can authenticate the orders issued by the President of India. So, remember, the validity of such order cannot be questioned in any court of law. This is very important, Article 77 under which the government of India functions. Very important. Now, what is the legacy of this? Why this such a thing is? How can you connect it? All on a sudden, Article 77 did not come. Kindly appreciate. The executive powers are vested in President of India. You could have understood it. All executive powers are vested in President of India under Article 53. But it cannot be construed, remember, it cannot be construed that the President will take every decision. The President will take every decision, he cannot say. Because first of all, constitutionally it is undesirable, and practically, physically it is impossible. Remember, Constitution has therefore created a mechanism. Constitution has therefore created a mechanism by which the responsibility for decision making is passed on from President to others. From President to others. Remember, firstly, the Constitution provides that the President can exercise these functions either directly or indirectly. Kindly recall what I said in Article 53. All the executive powers are vested in President of India, who shall exercise these powers either directly or indirectly through his subordinates in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. I remember to repeat it for 2 or 3 times. So, in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So, remember, first thing you should remember is Constitution provides that the President can exercise his functions either directly or indirectly through officers subordinate to him. Remember. So, this permits delegation of executive powers by President to ministers and others. First point. So, when the Article 53 itself says that it can be either directly or indirectly through his subordinates, this permits the President of India to delegate the functions to ministers and others. First point. Secondly, you should remember the President is to make rules for more convenient business of Government of India and transaction of business rules and allocation of business rules among the ministers. I have just now told you. The rules of business confer the powers upon the ministers to carry on the administration and to take decision in the department which has been allocated to them. So, allocation of business rules allocate the department to the ministers, and the ministers are competent to take decision with respect to their department. And thirdly, Parliament can, by law, confer these functions on any authority other than President. I have told you 53, other than President. When Parliament does so, the other officers can act in their names. So, sometime if you see, some orders are issued on behalf of the central government, some orders are issued on behalf of the secretary, some orders are issued on behalf of the undersecretary. So, minimum is undersecretary. So, it can be done through their own names also. When an order is made according to the business rules, remember, it gets judicial immunity. It cannot be challenged in any court of law that the President did not apply his mind to the matter included in the order. Remember, these 3 points you should remember. Now, Article 77 therefore gives effect to the provisions of Article 53, which I have already mentioned, which permits President to exercise his authority through subordinates to him, either directly or indirectly. So, this is Article 77 and rationale of Article 77. Why Article 77 was made? That is the reason, all the 3 reasons I have explained. So, Article 77, authentication of orders rules, transaction of business rules, allocation of business rules, and why it is exercised through either directly or indirectly through subordinates in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, which I have told you when we at the first instance, when we discussed Article 53, I remember to explain. Now we are coming to what is called as, see, Article 74, I said that the Council of Ministers, 75 formation of Council of Ministers. I told you the Prime Minister has no power at all. Kindly recall, it may look very arrogant, but to my knowledge, of all the 395 articles, only 2 articles give the powers to the Prime Minister. One is Article 74 and the other is Article 75. Article 74 said that there shall be a Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister to aid and advise the President of India in exercise of all his functions. All his functions. The only option open to the President is to refer back any advice to the Council of Ministers, and in the Council of Ministers, having reconsidered the matter and submitted again the same advice, President is bound to act in accordance with such reconsidered advice. So, this is the one power which the Prime Minister, who is heading the Council of Ministers, enjoys. Second power is Article 75. President appoints the Prime Minister and on his advice, the other minister. On his advice, other ministers means he can shuffle the cabinet, he can reshuffle the cabinet, he can appoint minister, he can remove the minister, he can keep the minister without portfolio, he can induct any person, even outside person, and subject to the condition that he should become the member of either House of Parliament within 6 months. Subject to this, Prime Minister of India enjoys full powers of appointing, reappointing, shuffling, reshuffling cabinet. So, this is the most important 2 powers which is given in Article 74 and 75. Other than this, Prime Minister, to my knowledge, has no powers expressly given in any of the provisions of the Constitution. Remember. Secondly, but I told you already, but the Prime Minister has constitutional duties. Remember, the Prime Minister has constitutional duties towards the President. I remember to told you, Prime Minister has constitutional duties, 3 constitutional duties towards the President. What are these 3? Number 1, he should communicate to the President all decisions of Council of Ministers on the administration of the affairs of the Union and also proposals for legislation. So remember 2 things. All decisions taken in the meetings of Cabinet and Council of Ministers on the administration of the affairs of the Union and also regarding any legislative proposal. What is legislative proposal? Bill. Any bill which are to be introduced in the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha regarding those bills, and any cabinet decision or Council of Ministers and on the affairs of the administration of the Union. These 2 matters, Prime Minister is required to brief the President. Number 1. Number 2, if the President of India asks any additional information with regard to these 2, what is that? Administration of the affairs of the Union or the legislative proposals pending, which are discussed in the Council of Ministers meeting or Cabinet meeting. If the President of India requires any additional information with reference to these 2, then the Prime Minister is bound to give. Number 2. Number 3, suppose a decision has been taken by an individual minister. Remember, very important, supposing a decision has been taken by an individual minister which has come to the knowledge of the President, and the President wants that decision to be considered by the Cabinet or Council of Ministers, he can ask the Prime Minister to refer this to the Cabinet, discuss this and give the decision to him. So remember, again I repeat, when a particular issue has been decided by an individual minister which has come to the knowledge of the President, and the President feels in all fitness of things, this matter should have been considered by Council of Ministers or Cabinet, in that contingency, the President can ask the Prime Minister, please place this decision for consideration of the Cabinet, and after the Cabinet decision, that should be communicated to the President. Remember, these are all the 3 constitutional duties of the Prime Minister towards the President. Remember, now the Constitution is silent. Kindly never think that we are more intelligent than, I have already told you, than Mr. Ambedkar, Dr. Ambedkar, or K. Munshi, or Alladi Krishnasamy, etc. At all. But remember, we are students, so we should know both the sides. What is the weakness, what is the gray area, etc. Everything we should know. That is why we are seeing what is the gray area, what could have been the better thing. So remember, Constitution does not provide what is the time under which the Prime Minister should brief the President. It has not mentioned. It has mentioned only constitutional duties. Prime Minister should brief the President. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? Is it half-yearly? Nothing has been mentioned. So it has been left to the initiative or lack of it of the Prime Minister. Now, Pandit Nehru used to, as I understand, very religiously used to brief the President every week. And Mrs. Indira Gandhi used to brief every month. And Rajiv Gandhi used to brief every month initially. Subsequently, because of certain difference of opinion between the President and the Prime Minister, he used to brief the President of once in a quarter. So, there is what, as a student, what we should know, what is the time limit of briefing? Prime Minister briefing the President. If there is a question, remember, there is no time limit fixed in the Constitution. It is only convention. It is only convention. It depending upon the relations of the President and Prime Minister. If the President is close to Prime Minister, he can meet every day. There is no harm. The Prime Minister can go to the President office, not the other way about. So, there is no specific mention in the Constitution regarding periodicity of briefing by Prime Minister to President. So, with this we will end the class. Then we will start the President of India subsequently. President we will see, very important, we will start right from the qualifications, term of the President, conditions and privileges, etc. We will start in the next class. Thank you very much.